Good evening and welcome everybody to this, the 17th annual debate organised by the Family Justice Council. It's a debate with a small d. The contributions are made earnestly but in good faith by the speakers, and the aim is to stimulate discussion in the room and online by those of you who are attending, and also to raise an issue each year of some importance, which doesn't probably get focus in the busyness of ordinary life, and that's what we're about. And so the motion this year is, has the time come to widen the scope of legal parentage? Now that's a question rather than a motion, but I'm a lawyer. I'd take that sort of point, wouldn't I? So those in favour of the time having come would say yes to that, and those saying that the time hasn't come would say no. So that's the game plan, everybody. One or two housekeeping announcements inevitably. We're not expecting a fire alarm. So if the alarms go, it's for real. Obviously, the people in this room will have come through these two doors here, and those are the doors to aim for. But there are also fire doors either side of us up here. So if the alarms do go, some of you please come up the steps and come out this way. There's a whole, as my daughters would say, there's a whole nother world out there. It's not a very commodious world, but it's out that way. And we marshal in the quad, which is out of that side of the building, but just follow instructions. The event's being recorded, and so it'll be available shortly after this evening on the Family Justice Council website. There are 60 or so in the room, but we're expecting around 200 or so online. And that's been a feature really since COVID of having these hybrid events. And it's very successful. And I welcome particularly those of you who've been able to log on wherever you are to follow the debate. There'll be questions of the panel once the main contributions have been delivered. Those of you online, can you please submit your questions using the slido.com program? I think there are details of how to use it if you're online. The login details are also included in the program and the confirmation email. Once you've submitted the questions, they'll be asked in the room by one of the Family Justice Council staff here. Those of you in the room, a rather new thing, you're going to raise your hands up and actually ask the questions if you want to have a question to ask. And we hope there's a balance between those of you in the room who want to join in and those online. Something to stress is that we're extremely grateful to the 6 speakers. It wouldn't work, would it, if we didn't have any speakers? And some of the speakers will be not necessarily expressing their own personal views. They're taking part in order for the debate to happen, and they'll be putting forward positions for and against, but they're not necessarily their own views. When you leave the event, please go back the way you came. The only way out of the building is to wend your way all the way back to the West Green entrance that you came in by. What I'm going to do is to introduce each of the 6 speakers to you in brief terms. There's a full biography with the pack that went out, and I'm going to do it hopefully in the order in which they're going to speak. First is Natalie Gamble, who will be, I think, well known to a lot of people attending the debate. Natalie is inspirational. She was a groundbreaking solicitor in the field of LGBT law and families in particular, in relation to surrogacy law reform 2 decades ago. And it's no understatement to say that a lot of the law on surrogacy, both the fact of it and the detail of it, is down to the campaign that Natalie and others, but I think led by you, Natalie, waged all that time ago. And she's an expert in that area of the law, and we're very pleased to have her proposing the motion. She is the founder of the first specialist fertility law firm in the UK, NGA Law, and she's co-founder of a non-profit surrogacy agency called Brilliant Beginnings. And so we've asked her to be the first speaker because we want a brilliant beginning. There we are. Following Natalie will be Dr. Daphne Lima, I'm very pleased Daphne's been able to come. We've been in touch with each other in various ways, I having been at Durham University many years ago, and Daphne now being the assistant professor of law, or ABRA assistant professor in the Durham Law School, specializing in family law and human rights. Often from a comparative perspective, her research has focused on parenthood, including multiple parenthood, assisted reproduction, and cross-border recognition of families. And she's the co-convener of the family law section of the Society of Legal Scholars. So we're very pleased to have you with us this evening, Daphne. Following Daphne will be Dr. Sophie Zadi, who's a reader in family psychology at the University of Sussex, and she has focused on family research, and in particular on the outcomes and experiences of children and parents in families formed through assisted reproduction, including donor insemination, egg donation, and surrogacy, and LGBTQ plus families. And so she is uniquely, I think, qualified to talk about the impact in human terms on the individuals who find themselves involved in the arrangements that we're going to be discussing. Following her will be Susanna Johnson, King's Counsel from 7BR Chambers. Susanna took Silkim this year, and she specialises in family work in relation to children and civil cases with a related family element. She's currently, she tells me, engaged in the COVID inquiry. You can ask questions about that, but after the debate, not not during it. We're very pleased to have Susanna with us this evening, who will look at matters from a practical point of view as a lawyer. Similarly, Andrew Powell, a barrister at 4 PB, regularly appears in surrogacy and adoption and international adoption cases. Andrew was awarded only last month the International Family Lawyer of the Year award by Family Law LexisNexis, and so I don't really need to say much more about him. He obviously is the man to have, but he would want me to say that he's published a book on surrogacy. So I got that in, Andrew. Is that all right? And edits the domestic adoption chapter in Radin and Jackson, which is another book on family law. Simon Robotham, last but not least, is a family barrister in 4 PB. He specializes in financial cases, but also has a broad general family law practice. He sits as a recorder in the Midlands Circuit, and he's recently joined the Family Justice Council. Simon also went to Durham, so there's a bit of a but you shouldn't be biased about where we all come from. I looked at your website, Simon, and 2 entries in the legal directories are quoted. No one ever puts the entries up if they're not complimentary, are they? But they say that Simon is razor sharp, and another one says he has the ear of the court. And I wasn't sure whether those 2 were related in some way. And if he does have the ear of one of my colleagues, then please could he give it back? So enough of that. The speakers will each speak for 7 minutes. 6 minutes in, one of our operatives will hold up a card saying 1 minute left, and I shall be quite strict about the timing. I wish I could be strict when I'm sitting as a judge, because not only do we want to hear what the speakers have to say, we want to have a good discussion after the main part of the debate is over. And then the voting will happen. The voting will happen online using Slido, and in the room with the traditional method raising hands. At one earlier of these annual debates, Slido produced the answers as percentages, and we'd counted the hands physically in the room, and it involved pretty advanced maths to work out who'd won, but hopefully not tonight. So without further ado, I'd invite Natalie Gamble to make the first contribution for the motion. Over to you, Natalie.